Greetings friends, and welcome on my channel, and welcome in the first episode of new series. This small video, it's only introduction of my newly coming series, in which we will be building the Gigafactory. Yeah, huge base with lots of production. And I decided all production will be delivered by trains between different production blocks. You will see after a moment. But first, I want to say, after 3 unsuccessful series with biters, with very angry and mutating biters, I decide that I want something which will be more peaceful and calm to do with Factorio. But still, I love the Factorio and I want some long playthroughs, so here we are. We will do the great and the biggest base I ever built. Probably. We're not counting that base in 300 series, but this will be bigger and much complicated in some ways than was that original base in 300 series. And why I saying that? Because I decided every delivery between different production will be handled by trains. So we will have a lot of trains, we will have some supply the depots, and for that we will use the train supply manager, which will be also challenging for me because I still fully don't understand how that works. But before we dive into the gameplay, I want to show you what are the parameters of this gameplay and what was my thinking about this series. So first thing first, I will show you our future map, the future place to do all those things. I prepare some beautiful map. Let's see, yeah, it's mostly greenish. There are not water between these two big lakes. And I rise all those parameters of the patches and other resources on the map. So now each of these patches is several millions of copper and iron and so on. I lower the coverage of water, and I also maximize the starting area size and lower a little bit, maybe even more, the size of biters and the frequency of those villages, because I don't want to deal with biters in this series, at least not for first 30 episodes or something like that. So I really need a big area to start with without necessary defending those builds and so on. I don't want to remove the biters completely or set the peaceful mode. It's the part of the game. I like to deal with them maybe later, but not right now. The enemy expansion and evolution, it's on the default settings, so we are done with that. And then the major change in this playthrough will be that we will use expensive recipes. Yeah, most of the gameplay or all the gameplay which I did in my past was with the normal recipes. We are not counting the recipes for some extensions like Rastorio or Space Exploration and so on. I just want the vanilla Tech 3, mostly vanilla Tech 3, but I want to try the expensive recipes because they can add a little bit of difficulty in the gameplay, and also we will do the expensive technology with price multiplier 10, so the normal recipe which causing like 100 packs will now cause 1000, and that's one of the important things which we are building here. We need to achieve like 1000 white packs each minute. So I think each rocket can bring us 1000 packs, so we need to build like 60 rockets or more, I don't know. We shall see during the gameplay what that will bring us. Okay. I will export that map to be sure. Okay. Now, before we begin, I want to talk about mods which I installed for this gameplay. I'm mostly leaving the factory in the vanilla settings, except those changes in the map and the parameters of the game. And then I am using some mostly helpful mods. You will find the list of these mods under this video and under all videos in this series. I will use, instead of construction bots, the company drones. These is actually other new version of those. Somehow it's from different developer, and they have a little bit different philosophy than has those construction bots, which are not useful anymore for me. And yeah, we have a lot of hot things. We have a lot of suffering with those bots. These are much better, and also they can attack the biters in case they are shown on the map, so they actually also are defense. They are much quicker and more reactive than the old construction bots. So I switch to those. I install the loaders and compact loaders, so we can do some compact delivery, which it could be handy in the late game when we need to produce a lot of things, to do a lot of rockets, and these actually help us to deliver enough amounts into the production. Then standard disco signs, because these science labs need to have different lights, right? You cannot live without disco signs anymore. Some even distribution, these explosives excavator charges to make some holes for water, because each production should have own water source. I will not using that central lake, at least not in the late games, maybe from the beginning only. Fill me up some lightorio to light the map, especially for you to see better. Max rate calculator is the standard for me. Mining drones. Yeah, I decided to switch from the normal miners to mining drones. These mini-me's will mine into that depot, and then we can with loaders take like 2 or 3 full belts from the depot. It's also the buffer, so it's a good, and I recommend that mod if you have enough to dealing with placing of the miner. The normal miners with belts and power poles and so on. This don't need even the electricity, so it's a little bit cheating mode, but it's really nicely done. You can see in the depot how much it's content, so it will rise the level of that ore in that depot, and you can paste up to 100 of those mini-me's to mine the ores. And yeah, the realistic flashlight, which is very nice visual mode, especially with those companion bots, because they have their own flashlight also, so it's look very good. And of course the terrain supply manager, which will be the backbone of our transporting system. And maybe some other helping mods like where is my body in case I died, which could happen several times during this gameplay, especially when I will be hit by a terrain. I think I can predict that I will be hit several times. And Yarn Resource Monitor, which was recommended me by, I think, Dominic or Tony, I don't know. Anyway, it's a good thing to monitor your resources and how they are depleted during this big gameplay. Okay, that's it. It's mostly helping mods, nothing which change the gameplay, except maybe those mining drones and terrain supply manager. Okay, and then one last thing, I want to show you my way of thoughts when I'm preparing for this series very quickly. Okay, this is my test scenario, test map, test playthrough to test some of my blueprints. First, I thought that I will use the size of the reach of the Roboport. As you can see, I did this grid, which should work as our main block for this base. But sadly, I discover that if I make some train stations to unload and load things and so on, we will end up with a really small area to build anything. And because this crossing the horizontal and vertical line of train rails, sorry, it's very difficult for trains to switch from this train tracks to this one, or horizontal to vertical and so on. For that, I start to preparing something like this crazy thingy, but yeah, it's maybe could work. However, yeah, the space is problem. Space for placing the signals and so on. Also to join the surrounding train tracks will be quite difficult and so on. So after some designing of those blocks, and I still have somewhere over here the blueprint book, maybe with those, yes, over here. Yeah, even the stations. I decide that this area, it's not large enough to actually build something decent, especially with those expensive recipes. So I said myself, we need to go bigger. So, and for that I decide to use not one but 4 roboports in one, let's say, build cell. So now we have complete coverage from roboports around that cell, which is 4 times bigger than the original one, which allow us to place like this buffer stations for our trains, or much bigger builds and so on. Also, it's included from the same blueprint book with rails, which I use in 300 series, these beautiful crossroads and roundabouts in each corner, which allows to train very quickly get where they need to go. See, we can use take the train and says go there, everywhere when we need to go, and it will take the shortest way as is possible. On the other hand, this one, it's quite complicated because you can go there, and actually that's it. If I don't take this runabout slash crossroad slash, I don't know how to say this thing, and place it in this area and in this area, I think actually you need to have all horizontal and vertical blocks cover at least one of these crossroads block, and ideally every, I don't know, 4 or 5 tiles to cut down the distance which the train needs to go and take. So yeah, it's not ideal to use the blocks like this. You cannot place the runabouts in the corner. Actually, you could. We have runabouts, but it will take, let's imagine that we will place 4 of those in each of corner. How much of free space we will end up eventually, right? Yeah, like with nothing. So the building cell with one roboport in the middle, it's not good. So I decide to do the bigger one. So I had I have prepared some basic blueprints for building that grid for builds with some other things like stations and so on. The rest of the necessary blueprints we will be doing through the gameplay. Okay, so that's it. And now I will quit that gameplay, and without further ado, let's start the new series. So I will load, no, I want new game, free play, next, import map, bam. We have the map as we did decide to set, and let's play. Here we go, we have those two at the beginning, which is awesome. And now to the first episode of the Gigafactory series.